All right, guys, so let's talk a little bit about fixing and flipping, because that's, I think, probably why many of you came here. And that's actually the topic that most people want to get started in real estate investing about. Like, that's the sexy stuff. People want to get into real estate investing because they see, let's flip that house, right? Let's flip that house. Because they see flip that house, right? And they think, well, I can do that because those guys were total idiots and they figured out how to make money. Like, I'm smarter than those folks and I'm going to do it too. And fixing and flipping is kind of the sexy thing to do in real estate. And one of the reasons why we picked this topic is because even though it's the sexiest, number one. Number two, it's also the most profitable, it's the most lucrative. But it's also one of the things that I see most investors lose the highest amount of money on, because typically they don't make their money, they didn't buy it right? And that's where you make your money. So you've got to be aware of a couple of things as a real estate investor when you're looking to do fix and flip. So the way that we're going to break this this presentation down is we're going to go through kind of the process of getting that fix and flip and some of the things that I want you to look for, and then we're going to end it with like the misery, right? Everything that goes wrong and all of the problems that go along with it, and some of the things that you need to look out for as a real estate investor. Because the last thing you want to do is get caught in a situation where you have paid too much for a house and you have over-approved it, and or you didn't know that you had to do something, and now that's cost you a lot of money. And that happens all the time to many real estate investors. And in fact, you've heard as many people make money in real estate as you've heard people lose money in real estate, and it's typically because of this particular strategy. So let's get started. Fixing and flipping, even though most investors want to get started doing it, it's not necessarily a strategy that I would say, hey, you're brand new? Yeah, why don't you spend $150,000 buying a house, and then why don't you spend $80,000 renovating it? So you have $230,000 cash in the deal, and then go and try and sell it. Yeah? Easy, right? Everybody feels comfortable. Everyone pull out their wallet right now? It is risky because it's so capital intensive. And you've really got to know what you're doing as a real estate investor, but a lot of rookies want to get started just straight away, just specifically on this strategy. But you've got to be able to manage the strategy and manage the project correctly. And I listed a couple of things here that represent the risk that goes along with fixing and flipping. There's the market risk, right? How well did you calculate your ARV? I get people all the time who bring me quote-unquote deals, and they don't know what the ARV is, or they miscalculate the ARV. And a lot of times, not a lot of times, do you think that on average when someone screws up what the house is going to sell for at the end, do you think that they say it's going to sell for more, or do you think it's going to sell for less? I think it's going to sell for more, right? So, and that's not always the case. So understanding that is the first thing that you do, because you make your money on the buy. Project risk. Oh my God, my contractor. I love my contractor. And in fact, you guys love my contractor too. And that's why I can't get him on the phone right now. Okay, it's all y'all's fault, right? So contractors, they're either eating ramen noodles or they're eating steak. And right now they're eating steak. And they're eating steak. They used to be eating steak at Ruth's Chris. Now they're eating steak at the Capitol Grill because it's a dry aged, it's really juicy and tender, and yeah. So they're really doing well, right? Like I asked my contractor to come out to my personal house. This is the contractor that I have been using for 10 years. Now, just to be clear, I fired him and rehired him and fired him and rehired him a few times during that time period. But I couldn't get him to come out to my house just like fix, like I've got a leak under my sink. It was driving me crazy, and I can't get him to come out. And I shouldn't be like that, but that's the kind of market that we're in right now. And you've got to be really careful as you hire, and in some cases, fire contractors. In fact, one of the benefits of being a member of this Real Estate Investor Association is, God, this is terrible to say, but some of the investors in this group have taken it upon themselves after they got screwed over by a contractor to make a list of do not work with these contractors. Is that good? Is that a good list? Yeah, that's a great list. That's a great list. In fact, my contractor, he's on the be wary. You have to know how to work with my contractor, right? But managing your contractor is really a key part to make sure this happens, because Contractors can be kind of difficult to deal with, scary to deal with, and market timing. So we talked about the distribution curve, right, of when houses sell typically on the market. And then we also talked about market cycles, right, 4 years up, 2 years down. You want to make sure you understand where you are in that cycle. And then financial risk. I mean, many people, most first-time real estate investors underestimate their cost to repair by about 50%. So they think, I'm going to come in, I'm going to spend 20 grand, and they end up spending 40 grand because they didn't know something was an issue when they first came in, because they wanted to make the house beautiful like their house, or because they kind of didn't really create that final scope of work prior to getting that bid, so they're getting eaten up with change orders and delays. So all of these things can get in the way of you making a profit on your fix and flip deal. Until you're ready for that strategy, definitely consider some of the other less risky strategies. And for those of you guys who were in the room during Phil's talk, we talked about some of the several different strategies that we use as real estate investors, that some of which require no money at all. And those may be some of the ones you want to get started with before you're ready to jump in all the way and do some of the fix and flip stuff. Okay, so now that you have a fix and flip, you do the marketing, you find the property. How many of you guys are doing marketing? Raise your hand if you're doing marketing. Okay, that's actually not bad. That's maybe like 30% of the room. Where are the rest of you guys finding deals? Foreclosures? From people who have their hands up? Yeah? Yeah? Is that it? Is that the answer? Pre-foreclosures, yeah? Where are you guys finding your deals at if you're not doing any marketing? Just curious. Wholesalers. Oh, you're getting it from this lady. Well, I like this lady a lot. Yeah, she does marketing, right? So just, I mean, you know, we're amongst friends here. Is that, can we just like open up the kimono and really kind of talk about, like, Jen is like, shut up now, shut up. Can I just open up just a little bit? Did you sell her a deal? Does she know how much you made? Okay. You did an assignment. Okay. How much did you make on those assignments that you sold for Lisa?
7,000.
7,000 each? Okay. What do you guys think about that?
She's being too nice to her friend.
Say it again?
She's being too nice to her friend.
She's being too nice to a friend. You don't know that, right? I mean, you don't know that.
I signed up for more.
So 7,000. Okay, so let me do that. 7,000 times 2. That's still $14,000, right? How many people are spending $14,000 a year, more than $14,000 a year on their marketing? Raise your hand if you're spending more than $14,000 a year on your marketing. Okay, there's like 4 people. 4 people are spending more than $14,000 a year. How many people are spending more than $5,000 a year on their marketing? Okay, so we got about maybe 15 people are spending more than $5,000 a year. So on one deal, and I'm not saying like you overpaid because I know Jana and I trust Jana, but on one deal, you paid more than probably 80% of the people's in this room's marketing budget, right? So if you're a real estate investor, this is the reality. If you're a real estate investor, and if you are actively investing in real estate, meaning you're actively buying and selling property, whether you're doing the marketing or not, you're paying for it. Okay, you're paying for it. And you're paying a premium for that, right? You're paying a premium for that. So just understand that. One of the things that we spend a lot of time talking about is marketing, right? So Jana's like she was one of the few people who kept her hands up saying, I spend more than $14,000 a year on marketing because it has a good positive ROI for you. So once you figure out what the ROI is, once you figure out which one of your marketing strategies is bringing you the most leads, the most deals, the most dollars, then what do you do when you find that out?
You spend more.
You spend more. One of my marketing coaches said, you bring the boom. You bring the boom. The boom. You spend a lot more, right? You spend a lot more. And sometimes there are deals that you want, and sometimes there are deals that you don't want. And you get to cherry pick those deals, right? And then all the rest you get to wholesale. So I wholesale deals all the time to other investors. Some are just, I don't really like that deal, but I know some of the other investors may say, hey, Shenoah, but Huh, you know, you're not swinging a hammer, right? I'm not swinging, am I swinging a hammer? Am I swinging a hammer? I'm swinging a hammer. You did our Habitat Build Day? Yeah. So I will swing a hammer for Habitat for Humanity, but that is just about it, right? But some of you guys in here, how many of you guys are swinging your own hammer at your own renovation projects? Raise your hand. 3? That's it? You've swung some hammers, yeah, I've swung some hammers, yeah. But if you swing your own hammer, then that typically means that you can save a little bit of money on your renovation project. Now, what you save in terms of paying someone else, you'll typically burn in terms of time, right, and holding costs. You have to watch out for that. But doing the marketing is critical. And guys, again, if you're not doing the marketing, but you're actively buying and selling, you're just paying someone else a premium to do that marketing. Now, is that premium okay? Is it okay to pay that premium? I will pay that premium all day long. In fact, you said $7,000, that's not enough, right? Well, we don't know what the deal is, but I paid a wholesaler over $60,000. And you know what? That was a really happy day when I wrote that check to that wholesaler. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Does that make sense? Because the numbers for me made sense. The numbers for me still made sense. That means that wholesaler really negotiated a great deal, right? But I don't care what a wholesaler makes. In fact, I want my wholesaler to make as much as possible. I want my wholesaler to get rich off of me, right? As long as the numbers make sense for me, I'm going to continue to buy from them. And if that wholesaler made, if that wholesaler made 60 grand off me, who do you think they're going to take their next wholesale deal to? Me, yeah, because I don't care what they make, because I want to get them rich. And I want them to continue to bring me deals and opportunities that obviously make sense to me. So the one thing you do is you do the marketing, or you find someone else who's doing the marketing, and you go and you network with them, and you say, I want to be one of your premium buyers, right? So you negotiate the property, you get it under contract, you complete your due diligence, and we had a little talk on due diligence, right, when we were all in here at the beginning of the meeting, yeah? Everyone's responsible for their own due diligence. Yeah, everybody remember that? Please say yes. Yes, okay, good. So the due diligence is figuring out what the property will sell for, the after repair value, understand the market risk, and get those contractor bids in. Get your money together. So we talked about 2 ways tonight to get money. How do you get money as a real estate investor? Hard money, yeah. What else? Private money, yeah. Didn't you see that cute little girl Becca from Quest IRA up here? Your own money, right? Your self-directed IRA. A line of credit, any other capital that you have, friends, family, etc. But you've got to get that money together. And then you close on the deal. Easy enough. Oh. This is where it gets maybe not as much fun, right? This is the managing the remodel. What does managing the remodel mean, right? It means dealing with city permits and inspections. That's easy, right? No? Yeah, not so much. Dealing with project surprises. Anybody been surprised by a project? Anybody found like a main drain line that needs to be replaced like after you fixed everything else in the house? Yeah, that happens, like $15,000, yeah? Contractor surprises. Does that ever happen? Contractors ever treat you bad? Most contractors, when they write out a bid, can I borrow, David, some paper and a pen? Okay. Just 1 page. Thank you. I'm going to make this dramatic. I'm going to need to write on that too, yeah. Thank you. You can hold the mic for a second.
Don't sing.
Don't sing. Round of applause for David. I'll be cutting him in half at the second part of the So, contractors, love them. Typical contractor bid. Some of you guys like play along with me because you've seen me do this so many times. But the ones of you who are new are like, what is that bid? What is she holding in her hands? Can't wait to see what this contractor bid looks like. Robert, can you read this for me?
Fixed house, 35K, half due now.
contractor bid, right? Have to now, right? They're being generous with you. Like sometimes they want the whole thing. Thank you. I'll autograph this for you later, David.
Thank you.
So contractors can be a little bit tough to deal with. Vandalism. No one ever forecasts any vandalism in their project. Anybody have any vandalism on any of their properties? Yeah, that happens, right? And that typically costs money, and sometimes it costs like several $1,000s, especially if it's a air conditioner unit. Yeah, outside air conditioner unit. Yeah, so that happens too. Then you got to pay all your ongoing expenses. You got to pay your hard money, loan payments, utilities, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, etc. Then you got to hire a sweet realtor to put it on the market for you. That realtor is going to stage the property, prepare for the pictures, put it in the MLS, and then you got to wait for an offer. Everybody can sing it. Yeah, I got some of that. Okay, yeah. And sometimes that can be a little stressful, can it not? Yeah, like I have a property listed in Fort Worth right now that I've had listed for 2 months. And there's a 3-month supply of inventory there, and I'm thinking, I'm like waiting down the bell curve right now. And I'm nervous. And that does a little something with your seller psychology, right? So waiting for that offer can sometimes be a little bit stressful. And while you're waiting for that offer, you have to maintain that property, visit that property, make sure there isn't vandalism or other stuff going on. Finally, you receive the offer, you negotiate it, you counter, come to terms, and review the buyer's financial strength. What does that mean? What does that mean? That means you get on your knees and you pray that the buyer's lender has their stuff together, right? And that they can actually close it, and they've actually like done some due diligence on their client and didn't just write a piece of paper and say, here, just use this whenever you need it, right? Go under contract. The buyer completes inspections and renegotiates the contract. Does that ever happen? Inspector never finds anything, right? Inspector's never given you a 28-page report on your house that was built 6 years ago of all the different things that are wrong with it and don't meet code today. Yeah, that happens. You have to go through this renegotiation process, potentially lowering the price, and or you've got to come and get a bunch of different things fixed. Let's see, what else do? You wait for the buyer's lenders to start the loan review, typically just a couple of days before closing again, and you'll sign something called an amendment to contract where you'll be extending the close date, right? And because the lender can't close on time. Pray that the buyer can secure the loan, get the appraisal back, renegotiate the contract if necessary, and finally, you close on the property. And what's the big thing you get after that? Let's go deposit that check. Is that a couple of things to do for fix and flip property? Yeah. Are there some stress points there? Yeah. Are there some areas where things can go terribly wrong there? Yeah, there are. So this is why we talk about fix and flipping, even though it's the sexiest, and even though it's the most profitable, it can still be the strategy that can cause you the most problems, right? Still be a strategy that causes you the most problems, especially if you're new to this. That's why we want to spend a little time talking about it. So we talked a lot about making your money on the bottom, so you've got to make the right offer when you come in onto a property. So what's that offer formula that we use as real estate investors? Sorry, huh?
70%.
Anybody?
C squared equals C squared?
Yes. Anybody not sure what to offer on a property? Like that they don't. Anybody in here does not know the investor formula? One guy, okay, couple guys. Do you think we would be a good real estate club if we didn't like talk about what that formula is? No. So we're gonna have Jana explain it to us. Okay? Yeah, she knows it because I do this to her all the time. But go ahead, tell her.
70% of the ARV minus repairs.
Okay, everybody got that? 70% of the after repair value, the ARV, which is what the house will reasonably sell for, minus whatever repairs you have to put into the property to get it to sell for that dollar amount. How much money do you make? How much money do you make when you make a 70% offer? How much money? 30%. That's what the seller thinks you're making, right? But what are you really making, guys? What are you really taking home? 10 to 15%. If you do a pretty good job, you're gonna bring home 10 to 15% because there's cost involved in buying and selling a property, right? So big cost. Okay, so there's your formula there, and that's your maximum allowable maximum allowable offer. MAO is what we call it. So a couple of examples just to kind of dumb it down. This has been a long day for me, especially. So ARV is 100,000, repairs are 25,000. 100,000 times 70% is 70,000 minus 25K is $45,000. Typical profit 10 to 15%. If you're wholesaling, you're gonna offer a little bit less in some cases, right? Because you want to mark it up so someone else will buy it from you and still feel like they're going to make a good profit off of it. So wholesalers have that extra little thing that they've got to do. Advanced offers. This is only after you get really good do you start to stray from this MAO formula. And there are a couple scenarios under which I would suggest a new investor stray, or even an experienced investor stray from that regular MAO formula. And that's when you understand the time value of money, adjust for any renovation risks, right? You might pay a little bit more if it's just a paint and carpet job than if it needs a brand new foundation, plumbing, etc. Adjust your offer if you already have a buyer in hand, right? I already know someone who's going to buy that property, so I'm willing to pay a little bit more because I already have a buyer in my back pocket. And adjust offers to hit a minimum profit dollar amounts. We'll go through a couple of these different scenarios. Time value of money. So if you're investing in an area where there's not a whole lot of inventory because houses are selling so quickly, and you know you're not going to be paying holding costs for a huge amount of time, you'll probably pay a little bit more money for that property. On the other hand, if you're investing in an area where there's a 10-month supply of inventory, you're probably going to want to pay a little bit less because you know you're going to be paying a lot more in holding costs, right? At the very high end and at the very low end, the math gets fuzzy. What does that mean? Fuzzy math. What does that mean? The formula doesn't work. The formula doesn't work. So let's say, hypothetical, right? You have a house with an ARV of 70,000. So let's say this is a property in Taylor, okay? Has an ARV of $70,000. How much are you going to make on that house? What do we say you're going to make on the house? If you make your offer right, you're going to make maybe $7,000 to $12,000, right? You make $7,000 to $12,000. Well, the math gets fuzzy because what if you missed a big repair item? And what if that big repair item was like a $7,000 repair item? That's could be your entire profit. And then what if you kind of messed up the ARV a little bit and you had to lower the price by $5,000? Yeah, so your margin percentage looks pretty good, but your margin dollars are so small that sometimes that 70% formula can get a little risky. Okay, that 70% formula can get a little risky. Now, on the other side of that equation, if you're looking at a house that has an ARV of 500,000, and you're looking at making between 50 and 75,000, and you're competing with other people, do you guys want to make 50 to 75K? Yeah? Yeah, hello? Yeah, let's try that again. Is this thing on? Do you guys want to make 50 to 75,000 on a deal? Yes. Okay, it is on. Okay, good. But, and that's what you'd make if you did 70% of 500,000, which is 350, and let's say there's $50,000 in repairs. So that's what you make if the house was you bought the house for 300 grand. Now, if I told you like there are other investors that are competing on this deal, you say, gosh, that's really going to cut into my $50,000 to $75,000 profit, right? Your margin dollars are so big that you could probably offer a little bit more, right? You could probably offer a little bit more. Now, Phil, my husband, has this saying. I don't know if he said it in the video or not. Does anybody know what Phil's saying is?
Pigs get fat.
Pigs get fat, and hogs get slaughtered, right? Pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. Now, just to be real clear, it is A-okay to be a pig, right? Everybody got that? Everybody can be a pig, right? But you need to understand, so on this $500,000 house, be a pig, right? You don't have to make 50 to 75. You may be happy making 30 to, 50, right? Yeah? Still happy? Things still on, right? Yeah, okay, good. But you do have to understand and do the due diligence on the low end, because it can go quite the opposite direction on the low end. In fact, it can go the opposite direction really quickly. And I'll tell you one thing, and this is tribal knowledge here, okay? Tribal knowledge? You want some of this? Yeah. Okay, this thing's still working, right? Yeah, everyone's, okay. So who's your typical buyer for a $70,000 house? First time home buyer? Yeah? What kind of loan are they getting? USDA, FHA, sometimes VA, right? Sometimes VA. And what are they typically asking the seller to do? Pay closing costs. And how much is that typically? A couple $1,000s, right? So you ask your realtor, you go to your trusted advisor, which is a realtor, right? You ask your realtor, hey, what are these houses selling for? Oh, these houses are solidly selling for $70,000. Solid. Take it to the bank. Solid. But they don't tell you that because all these houses are $70,000 houses, they're all getting sold to FHA buyers, and every single one of these FHA buyers is asking the seller to pay for $3,000 in closing costs. Right? Does that cut into your $7,000 profit? Really quickly. So when you're asking that realtor, that trusted advisor, give me the CMA on this property, you better also ask that realtor to tell you what the typical closing costs the seller is going to pay on the buyer's behalf, which cuts straight into your bottom line every single time when you buy and sell a property in that neighborhood. Does that make sense? What's the FHA loan limit right now? Don't quote me on this. It's like 200. No, nobody knows. In fact, it may even be 250. So you will see FHA buyers even on these higher price houses. So is that around 400? No. FHA loan? No. No. FHA is like maybe 250. Yeah. So you do have to be aware of that, because on a $250,000 house, they may ask the seller to pay maybe $6,000 in closing costs, right? So you have to understand that. It's important to look at. So that's why I say at the high end and the low end, the math gets a little, well, I called it fuzzy, you called it incorrect, right? And I think your definition is probably a little bit better, but I want you guys to understand that, because this can get a little bit tricky as you're doing your first fix and flips. Just for renovation risk, again, I will pay a lot more money for a property that just needs carpet and paint versus a house that needs structural repair. And just it's the time value of money. It's a reduction in your risk, and as your risk goes down, you're always, for me personally, I'm always willing to pay a little bit more. Better yet, always pay more if you have a buyer. Analysis and due diligence. This is where it breaks down for new investors, because most new investors are not an expert at analysis and due diligence, right? You're still kind of figuring it out. You don't maybe quite understand, but you're putting real capital on the table, right? Real estate is probably the most capital-intensive business that there is out there, right? You're putting up real money, so you've got to be an expert before you throw somebody a $150,000 check across the room and you add repair costs on top of that. So you need to understand the after repair value and have the comps to support it, and understand what the repair calculation is, and get that right. That is the due diligence. You guys have heard me say it so many times. This is where it goes wrong for people, and then it's project management after that. All right. And I always, for myself, every time I'm looking at a property, I always do scenario analysis, and this is something that my coach Nito taught me, is every time I look at a project, I look at best case, worst case, and most likely case. most real estate investors, every time they look at a project, they look at best case. In fact, sometimes they look at best case plus, right? That can get a little risky. So I want to understand if things really hit the fan, if I end up holding the property for longer than what I originally thought, if I end up spending the high end of my repair bids, which sometimes happens, you know, what's that going to look like for me? And if like the you know, three hits you're out, if I am wrong on my ARV, which a lot of times you can get in a range, you never know exactly what it's going to sell for, but you know what that range is. So if you're on the lower range of your ARV, you're on the upper range of your repairs, and then it takes you a little bit longer to sell it. Don't you want to know what that scenario looks like? Yeah, some of you guys would be surprised to know that some of the projects you're looking at has a dash sign in front of it, like as in negative, right? So it's important to understand that, because you could very quickly learn what it feels like to work at Walmart, right? If your deal comes out making like $3 grand, or sometimes you can figure out what it's like to work at a nonprofit for free, right? So that's why it's so important to understand and take the time to go through that. All right, earnest money and option deposits. And this is really for the newer investors in the room. Earnest money, $10 to $100. Okay, that's how much you put down. Now, realtors will tell you what? 1%, right? $300,000 sales price, you put 1% down. $150,000 sale price, you put $1,500 down for earnest money, right? But on these deals that we're dealing with, you do not. Why? What are some of the reasons why you might not want to put down a full 1%? Tie up all your cash, right? What if you have 10 offers out, right? What if you have 10 contracts out? What's another reason you might not want to put a whole lot down for earnest money? Who said that? The deal might, I want to ask you, anything like what? Everything like what?
You could find out there's a $60,000 lien you didn't know about.
You could find out that the seller wasn't completely honest with you. Oops, right? I forgot that I got that home equity line of credit and I took out another $60K on this property, right? What else could happen? So have you ever gone under contract with someone who does not own the property? Nobody? Nobody besides me? Oh man, so one time I went under contract with the drug dealer of the owners. Yeah. And the owners owed the drug dealer some money, so the drug dealer put the house on Craigslist. And I'm like, that's a damn good deal. Yeah, that's a damn good deal. Yeah, one made the offer over the phone, like I'm coming over with money, like I'm in, right? I could take it over to the title company. The title company's like, well, who the hell's this guy? Well, they're the owner. No, they're not, right? So stuff like that can happen. People can die, right? People can die. Your deal's not going through if somebody's dead, right? So those are some of the things that can get in the way. And that's one. And this is so I've got to overcome objections a lot as a real estate investor. You guys have to overcome objections a lot as a real estate investor. So when someone says, "Why are you only putting down $10 or $100?" These are the ways that you overcome the objections. Are these fair? Okay. Option money, $10 or as little as possible. How much is a realtor going to tell you to put down for option money? $100, sometimes even up to $250, right? You only want to put down $10 because, again, you might have a lot of offers out, right? Yeah. Option time. How much option time do you want? Yeah, let me make this real clear. As much as you can possibly negotiate, right? Because this is your time where you're finally figuring out your exit strategy. Financing. You've got to get your financing worked out. How much is hard money? I wrote it up here. Somebody just read it like. Yeah, so 3 to 5 points, 12 to 15%. So that costs a little bit of money, right? So on a $100,000 deal, it means $26,000 in repair. At closing, you're going to pay maybe 3 points, so $3,000 upfront on the HUD. And then every month, you're going to pay an interest-only payment of $1,166. If you hold it for 6 months, your total holding cost, that's 10 grand, right? So we talked about like, well, how much do you make when you offer 30%? 70%, right? You typically don't make 30% because you've got these holding costs, right? And they start to add up over time. So a couple advanced alternatives. I always pay more for a rental property and for a fix and flip if I can get the seller to leave the existing financing in place. I will always pay more. How much more? How much more will I pay? 10%? How much more will I pay? Let's go back one slide. How much more will I pay?
About 10 grand.
It depends, right? You know, it depends on what the purchase price is. But yeah, I'll always pay a lot more if I can get that financing in place because I know how much hard money costs me, and I know that I'm always willing to increase my maximum allowable offer if I'm able to get that loan in place. Now, typically, am I giving away the whole 10 grand? You giving away the whole 10 grand? I'm not. So I might say, listen, if I buy it today cash, I'm going to make you an offer of $80,000. But if I take over your payments on your loan, I'll pay you $84,000. Yeah, we'll take the 84, right? We want the extra $4,000, and it would be a happy day if you reinstated my loan, fixed my house, and then defaulted on the payments, right? So they'll always take that. So the truth about fixing and flipping, exciting and sexy and very profitable. But the whole truth is, it's not maybe a great getting started strategy because there are a lot of pitfalls I said you got to be an expert on understanding the ARV, you've got to be an expert on understanding the repairs, you've got to be really good at managing those contractors, right? The whole truth is there's a lot of risk. And a lot of times when someone is making one of these investment decisions, they're only looking at the best case scenario and not at the most likely or the average case scenario. The whole truth is finding a great contractor is really, really, really tough, especially right now because contractors are in such high demand. And the whole truth is you can make a great living fixing and flipping. You just have to manage your projects really well and keep your pipelines of deals, your marketing going. All right, so let's talk. I'm going to go through a couple of case studies of some of the deals that we've done. First thing I'll list here is motivation. Why is understanding the motivation important?
You know how to solve their problem.
You got to solve their problem to be able to get the deal, right? So this property needed a lot of repairs, and they had to move. So 3-2, built in the 70s, 1,200 square feet. Repairs were $25,000. ARV was $130,000. Got it under contract for $65 cash. Is that a good offer? Is that a good price? Okay, good. MAO was 66, so we got it about $1,000 lower. The seller would not owner finance it to us. Yeah, that's okay, because we made a lot of money on it, and we brought our own money to the closing table. This is a little picture of that little house. Let's see, another case study, Purple Sage. Seller was behind on payments, 3-2, needed $15K in repairs. ARV was $110,000. We got it under contract for $69,000. Is that a good price? But the MAO is only $65,500, right? Is that still a good price? Still a good price? We got it subject to. We got it with the financing. Yeah, we got it with the financing, so we'll pay a little bit more, right? Profit was $7,000. Man, that's not very much. But, I wouldn't kick $7,000 out of bed. And it was an easy renovation, right? $15,000 in repair, a new roof, $6 grand, carpet paint, HVAC. Pretty basic, right? We can handle that pretty quickly. Little picture of that little house. The tricky details. So I really want you guys to follow the maximum allowable offer strategy, right? The 70% of ARV minus repairs until you get a little bit of experience under your belt, right? So make sure you get bids from multiple contractors and do not go with the lowest bid, which is it's it's like the lowest bid, the contractor with the lowest bid is kind of like I-35. It's like this muse, right? It's this siren calling you. Shenoah, it's a straight line. You just go straight up. It's just straight. You go, come on over here. Come on over to I-35. We'll love you, right? And you get on I-35 and you're like, this is the worst decision I've ever made in my life, right? So you gotta get bit. You can't fall for that siren, which is that lowest price contractor, because I can promise you, they will find a way to make it up, and I can promise you, you are not going to like it, right? So you gotta get multiple bids, and sometimes just having multiple bids, you get multiple contractors who are giving you advice on what you really need to do to get that deal done. Check your references. Oh man, I gotta tell you, one time someone put a reference on the Austin RENC listserv, which is one of the benefits of membership. And I was looking for a handyman, a high-end handyman, because I want this handyman to go and work on my house. And the guy who recommended him, I knew that guy personally. And so I called this guy that he recommended. This was a couple months after he recommended him. And this guy was a total disaster. And so I called the guy that recommended him. He's like, yeah, he kind of got on drugs after I recommended him. So you got to check like current references, right? Not just references from a couple of months ago. Don't let the contractor get ahead of you on payments, right? Because we looked at the contractor bid sheet, right? They want half up front. You want to pay them as the work is done and on a schedule that they agree to, and sometimes I make them actually build the schedule out themselves. So this is how much you're going to get paid in week 1, this is how much you're going to get paid in week 2, et cetera, and so forth and so on. Detail every single item of the renovation down to the hinges. I detailed one bid, one scope of work where I detailed everything, every single thing in the house was brush nickel. The one thing that I forgot to include in the scope of work were the hinges, and the contractor put on brass hinges. Beautiful. Yeah. Accent color. Are you related to my contractor? Watches are two-tone. Yeah. Hey, what's the big deal? Yeah. So do you think a contractor might accidentally on purpose do that to you? Yeah, I think there's a lot of accidental on purpose, right? And that was one of those things. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about creating that scope of work and really getting that detail down, because some of these things accidentally on purpose happen all the time. And you've got to be aware of that. Don't make a single change order. So I always say, when I introduce myself to a new contractor, I say, you can call me no change order, Shenoah. Because I'm not going to make any change orders. You guys can borrow that anytime because it does work. It kind of sets the precedent. Like, we're not going to make any change orders. We need to make sure the scope of work is accurate, detailed, and complete at the time that we get that bid from that contractor. And this again is where a spot where a lot of new investors make mistakes, because you're a new investor. You don't know that. I'm trying to think. What do you not know? Something. You don't know everything that needs to be updated and changed. You just don't, right? You think, I'm getting new toilets, right? You don't think to tell them, well, you're gonna change the seal on that toilet too, right? Or otherwise the house is going to flood, right? And ruin all your brand new flooring, right? But you may not know, because you're brand new at this, you've never had to replace a toilet, but you've got to replace the seal at the same time you've replaced the toilet. And do you think sometimes people get a little lazy when they're replacing a toilet? Or don't really know what they're doing, and they're just like an assistant to the plumber, and the plumber says, go do this, and they think that they know what's happening, and they don't? This is the kind of detail that you need to describe to make sure you don't get yourself in a tough situation. Don't let the project go dark. Somebody needs to be over there working on the project every day, because hard money cost, right? Property taxes, insurance, vandalism. You want to make sure someone's always working on that property. And hit your timetable of hitting it on the market, so you don't end up listing the property in November, December, January. Okay, so let's talk about some of the top mistakes. I've beat this over the head. Overpaying on the property. You make your money on the buy, right? Paying a wholesaler a non-refundable deposit. So there are a lot of wholesalers, professional wholesale companies, not Jana, even though Jana is very professional, who require a $5,000 non-refundable deposit.
I talked to that guy today.
You talked to that today? Okay, yeah, good. Send him my regards, okay? Because what happens is, I can guarantee you one person in this room is going to fall for that, right? And then you're going to call me on the phone and you're going to say, Shenoah, you know, and I'm going to say, oh, was it X, Y, and Z jerk off? And
You can't badmouth him publicly?
I'm sorry?
You can't badmouth this company publicly?
I just choose not to, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So guys, well, you'll know them, right? I mean, they're going to ask you for a $5,000 non-refundable deposit, right? And they're going to have like multiple people, multiple motivated buyers who are lined up to write that check, right? You don't know what their finances are, and you don't know what their exit strategy is. They may be willing to pay a lot more because they're going to keep it as a rental, or they're going to move into it as a homestead, right? So they may be willing to pay more than you are because you're trying to fix and flip it. So you've got to be careful for those sorts of things. And a lot of times they're asking for that non-refundable deposit before you're able to complete your due diligence, which includes CMA, your ARV, and the repair bids, right? Because you got to make that offer, you got to write that check in some cases on the spot. So look out for that. Not getting a house under contract immediately. I've seen a lot of investors that invest like this. Ready, 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 aim, okay, aim, gotta figure this out, gotta bring this person in here, gotta bring that person in here. Okay, fire. Well, guess what I'm gonna do, guys? I'm gonna ready, fire, aim, right? I'm gonna get it under contract for $10. $10 option money, $10 earnest money, and then I'm gonna figure out all the other details while I'm in my option period. Right? Don't spend, and this may sound counter to what I tell you of, you know, make sure you understand the ARV, make sure you understand the repairs, but it also make sure you get that property under contract so then you can make sure you get those things, right? And $10 and $10, you're not risking a whole lot of money, right? So it's worth the risk for sure. Trying to wholesale something you don't have under contract. Oh my gosh, what a funny story. So I'm going to give you guys the ability to deal pitch tonight. And I had one lady come up and deal pitch, and she said, well, I don't have it under contract. Why are you doing this to me and you? And she's like, well, it was listed on the MLS, and it was such and such neighborhood. And one of the investors in the room was like, trying to be clever. Well, just what was the MLS number? Right? Don't try and wholesale something you don't have under contract, right? Just, I mean, some other investor's going to go around you, quite possibly, right? A couple of mistakes with the rehab. This is where we get into the very small font because there are so many of these. Not managing the contractor properly, paying the contractor all the money up front, going with the lowest contractor bid, not checking up on the work often, not doing a thorough scope of work. You guys know my Hinge story. Accepting a one-page bid or contract, making change orders mid-rehab, trying to do the rehab yourself. Oh, you guys can save, I can save so much money if I do it myself. Yes, but it will take you approximately forever to do it, okay? Forever to do it, which will cost you holding costs. Over-improving the property, underestimating the time it takes to finish the property, not building a timetable with charges for the contractor being late, and not getting an affidavit of all bills paid, which means that you're getting proof that your contractor paid their subcontractors, which sometimes that check just never arrives, and the subcontractors don't care that you paid. They're still going to put a lien on your house because that original contractor that you paid never paid them. Okay, got it? A couple of top other mistakes, thinking you know it all and you can do it all. I'm going to be the realtor, I'm going to be the contractor. Listen guys, if you're not the expert, you will make a mistake, period, the end, and that will cost you. It's just a question of how much. Not getting a hard money loan that will be sufficient. Hard money lenders want their money back in 6 months because they want to reloan it. Well, if you don't get your project done on time and or you don't get it sold on time, you're going to have to maybe pay that hard money loan off, maybe pay more points or change in interest rate. Not timing the market or taking too long and missing the summer, spring, summer window. You've got to get these properties finished because again, if you're listing it today, you're about to be listing it in no man's land. Any questions on fixing and flipping?